Mom, will Dad arrive soon? Did you call him Tori? You are aware that he is constantly referring to himself. Candace responded to her daughter. We shouldn't distract him while he's on the road. He left early this morning. He promised to hang the swings, Tori. Please do not whine. If Dad promised, he would absolutely keep it. Let's make our favorite cake with coconut flakes and pineapple sauce for him. Tori's eyes shone brightly. Yes, exactly. Who prepares the best pineapple sauce for us? Me and you. Put the pineapple pieces in the blender, add half a cup of agave syrup, cover, and combine all that goodness. The girl clapped her hands. Absolutely right, my little berry, Candace said, kissing her daughter on the nose. The mother and daughter were sitting in the living room waiting for Sarah when Candace's phone called. It was about 9 p.m. The cake had cooled on the kitchen table, and the pineapple sauce had been stored in the refrigerator. It is Dad, she joyfully announced to her daughter. Yes, Sarah? Mrs. Diaz, an unfamiliar voice, spoke from the other end of the line. Yes, this is she, Candace said, puzzled. Your husband, Sarah Diaz, he is dead. What are you saying? Who is this? Candace sprang up from the couch and dashed out of the living room. I'm Captain Javier Alonso. We located your husband's automobile on the highway. He appeared to be heading home. Accident. A truck moved into his lane. The motorist fell asleep behind the wheel. Please accept my sincere sympathies. You'll need to come for identification. I will send you the location and time within an hour. Again, my condolences. There was silence. Hello? Hello? Candace yelled into the phone, unable to hold back the tears that streamed down her face. What happened, Mommy? Why are you in tears? Tori tugged at her mother's dress. Where's Dad, sweetie? Dad. He won't be back today. When will he be back? Why are you crying? The girl continued asking. Tell me, Tori. Dad? He's gone. He was in a horrific accident. Candace couldn't lie to her daughter, even though she didn't want to traumatize her. That was it. No, this is not true. Dad is alive. He'll be back soon and we'll enjoy cake together. Tori leaned against her mother, burying her face in the folds of her colorful frock. Victoria, sweetie, please forgive me for having to cause you this sorrow. I am also... It's difficult for me to accept this. But we have to be strong, Mom. Somebody lied to you. Tori exclaimed. It was a mean man who called you and lied to make us cry and feel bad. Candace, who was 7 years old at the time, was terrified the next day. She approached the cradle and noticed that little Laura wasn't breathing, and now she was standing in the morgue, with a person in a medical suit pulling back the white sheet from the face of the man lying on the stretcher. Yes, it was her, Sarah, and there was dried blood on his nose, a cut brow and busted lips. But those were his brows and lips. This is my husband. Candace covered her face with her hands. Everything felt like a haze. The medic was saying something to her, and the police officer was asking something, but the poor thing didn't understand anything. The world collapsed in an instant, and her dear Sarah was no more. No one will embrace her the way he did. No one will call her a fluffy fish. No one. Candace's friend and Sarah's former classmate Arnold assisted with the funeral, conveniently dropping by to visit his friend as he was passing through. It was an adamant time for Candace. She lost the closest person to her. The spouses understood each other without words. They felt good together, even when they just sat silently on the porch and looked at the stars. And how he loved the little Tori. He was ready to become a superhero to delight the girl with something unusual. Dinner, Candace shouted from the kitchen. Wait, my fluffy fish, Sarah called out from the living room. We haven't finished building the house for the teddy bear yet. Candace was astonished at how one person could combine a dependable, purposeful husband, a family man, and a little child who was ready to play with his daughter for hours with building blocks or making something out of cardboard or clay. Tori adored her father, and she couldn't spend a day without him. Candace sometimes felt like her daughter loved her father more than she did, but she wasn't offended by this. It was impossible not to love Sarah. His loud, somewhat Tori began to have trouble sleeping, so Candace let her stay in the bedroom they used to share with her husband, even though it was terrifying for her to be alone in the room at night. The mother tried to pay more attention to her daughter. even though she had to consider getting a job because they now had no one else to rely on. One day, Mr. Bust, the landlord of the house they had been renting for some years, contacted Candace. "Candace, sadly, I have to dissolve our arrangement," he remarked. "I've listed the house for sale. By the way, do you want to buy it from me?" "Mister, what exactly are you talking about, Bust? Sarah passed away lately and my daughter and I are devastated. Soon we won't be able to pay our rent." "I'm sorry, I didn't know about your misfortune," he said. "How much time do we have?" Candace asked. "In 2 weeks. The month is just coming to a conclusion. I understand that the arrangement was terminated abruptly. To compensate, I will not charge you for the past month." "Thanks, Mr. Bust. You're very kind." What should the sad widow do with her 6-year-old daughter in her arms? How do we deal with the immense pain that comes with the forced search for new dwelling and employment? Candace felt trapped in a dark, stifling room, unable to escape, afraid she wouldn't make it another second, suffocating from sorrow, and ready to give up. But then she found courage inside herself and attempted to confront the nightmare that had suddenly entered their lives. She needed to live for her daughter, Tori, this amazing, sensitive kid with a pure soul and a vast, compassionate heart. Her daughter occasionally made her smile. How much she resembled Sarah, my lovely Tori, thought the mother as she looked at her child. Finding home was impossible, either too pricey in deplorable circumstances or too far from school. Changing schools was completely out of the question. Victoria has already experienced extreme stress. Any change could result in a nervous breakdown. Candace was in a panic. She didn't know what to do. So she called Arnold. "Hello, dear," he said, picking up the phone. "Hello, Arnold. I'm sorry to bother you, but Tori and I really need help." "What happened?" "I'll do whatever I can. We just need to move out of our house in 3 days." Senor Bust, the landlord, called and said he put the house up for sale. "I'm looking for housing, but so far nothing suitable has come up. Do you happen to know anyone who's renting an apartment or a room not too far from Tori's school? I'll be there in an hour." "Don't worry, everything will be fine," Arnold said calmly and firmly, putting Candace at rest. Everything was practically packed. Senor Bust owned all of the furniture, so their small goods fit into 3 boxes and 2 bags, ready to be moved. Arnold inquired from the doorway, "Uncle Arnold, did you come to play with me?" Tori bolted out of her room when she heard Arnold's voice. "No, sweetheart, I came to take you and Mommy with me. You'll stay with me for now, and we'll see what happens next. Plus, the school is very close." "But we can't move in with you," Candace said. "Why not?" he said in amazement. "Can't I help friends in a tough time? Besides Sarah, I mean. Girls, we're leaving. Let's order pizza for dinner. How does that sound?" "Pizza sounds great," Tori exclaimed as she dashed back to her room. "Thank you, Arnold," Candace murmured quietly. "I'll always remember the kindness you show to us and Tori. Sarah is so lucky to have a friend like you." "Not only him, but I'm lucky to have a friend like Sarah," Arnold said, his voice trembling. He turned away from Candace, hoping she would not notice the tears in his eyes. Arnold lived alone, as a bachelor. He had just returned from abroad and purchased a tiny home. He was a nice person, but he did not appear to be suited for family life. Sarah always maintained that only a carefree forest fairy like him could win Arnold's heart, especially if that mythical entity granted him a pair of translucent wings. Everyday living drove this eccentric to apathy and green sadness. Arnold assigned Candace and her daughter an upstairs room that was only a meter away from theirs. "Don't worry, no one will bother you here. I'll guard your sleep," Arnold joked sadly. "Are there ghosts here?" Tori inquired, her eyes widening. "No, of course not. Do you think there's any ghost in the world that could handle someone like me?" "No way, kiddo. They haven't invented one like that yet," he said. Victoria laughed less anymore, preferring to sit silently and contemplate. Candace didn't ask and didn't bother her daughter. She was certain Tori was thinking about and mourning her father. She never truly accepted his death. "Mom, I think maybe Dad didn't actually die. You were mistaken back then. It was just someone who looked like him, not our dad," the girl suddenly said before sleep. "Oh, sweetie, how I wish that were true, that I was mistaken and he just went away on urgent business." the woman's eyes welled up with tears, making it difficult for her to talk due to the knot in her throat. So the three of them had been living this way for some months. Each had their own business. Candace worked at a local bakery, Tori attended school and joined a play club, and Arnold continued to deliver food to supermarkets. The pain of loss did not go away. It only subsided slightly. Time does not heal. It just helps to cope with grief or loss. Tori once started an adult conversation. "Mom, do you love Uncle Arnold?" said the youngster, looking at her mother intently. "Well, of course I love Arnold as a friend. What does as a friend mean? It means I don't want to marry him, for example, like I did with your dad. But he's dear to me as a person. I'm grateful to him and ready to help if Arnold ever needs anything." "Oh," Tori replied. "So if I love Uncle Arnold as a friend, I'm not betraying Dad? What if he gets upset with me up there in heaven? He's my dad after all. I should love him all my life," the 14-year-old thought. "Sweetheart, you're not betraying your dad if you love someone else. Arnold is Dad's best friend, and he's also a very good person. Your dad won't be upset. He'll be happy that his little Tori is smiling, not sad and crying in a corner," Candace said. "You know, Mom, I still feel like Dad is somewhere nearby, right?" "He'll always be in our hearts," Candace admitted regretfully. "We must cherish the fondest memories of Dad. Then his soul will be very well in heaven." Candace drew her daughter closer, and they sat together for a while, each lost in her thoughts. It was a good thing they had each other. Together they could manage. They would certainly manage. Tori sat on a bench one day as the other children played cheerfully, chasing each other or kicking a ball. "Why aren't you playing with the others, Señorita Ruo?" the teacher inquired. "I don't want to. I feel sad. We're going to the cemetery tomorrow." "Tomorrow? It's been half a year already since my dad died," she said with a sigh. "I understand, my dear. It's tough, you know. Let's write a letter to your dad. You'll tell him how you feel about the events in your life, your successes and sorrows. Can we do that? And will he definitely read it?" "Of course, sweetheart. His soul is alive and sees everything that happens to you, and this letter will help you at least a little to free yourself from the heavy feeling of losing your beloved father. You can put this letter on his grave, as I did when my grandmother died. I constantly wrote her letters and told her what was happening to me, you know." "Hi, could you please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel? Thanks?" Tori smiled regretfully and hugged her teacher. After the walk, they wrote a letter to Sarah. It was quiet at the cemetery. Only birds flew from branch to branch, chirping and chatting with each other. Candace sobbed softly as she adjusted the flowers she had brought with her, while Arnold gazed into the distance as if he could see something important there. The answers to some secret question. Tori didn't cry. Instead, she took out a letter from her small purse and pinned it to a plaque. "What is that?" Candace asked her daughter. "This is a letter for Daddy. We wrote it along with my teacher, Señorita Ruo." "I see," her mother replied quickly, also staring into the distance as if waiting for her beloved Sarah to suddenly appear from behind the trees, laughing boyishly, running over, picking her up and spinning her around the cemetery. But there's no laughter here. No spinning women. No one telling them funny stories. Here people usually stay silent or cry, remembering those who are no longer with them. They stood for a little longer and then walked away. Walked away and dear Dad. I know you are in paradise right now, seeing everything that is happening to me and Mom. We miss you very much. I miss our games and stories. No one offers me daisies anymore, and I don't want anyone to give them to me if you're not present. Then flowers are unnecessary for me. Uncle Arnold is quite wonderful. He adores me and Mom and assists us with everything. Senor Bust forced us out of our old house, which he sold, so we now reside in his. It's even better. Everything there reminds me of you, including the swings you never got to use. Uncle Arnold hung them near his home. When I swing on them, I close my eyes and think you're there, threatening to catch and tickle me. I adore you, Daddy, and will never forget your loving gaze and amusing laughter. Mom will not forget either, little mouse. The following Sunday, Tori awoke earlier than everyone else, as she always did, and left the house. A gentle breeze rustled the thin sheet of paper with neatly written, complex letters. Daisies were drawn on the edges, more eloquent than words. a symbol of filial love. The girl's legs went weak when she saw it. A bouquet of delicate daisies was attached to the swing ropes with a light blue ribbon. No, it couldn't be. Tori's a dad. "Daddy," she whispered. "Where are you? You are not dead." "I know. I've always known." Tori smiled as the gentle rays of the morning sun caressed her face and shoulders. Her father was alive, and he would definitely return. She just needed to wait a little longer. The girl quickly untied the bouquet and quietly sneaked into her secret spot in the attic, which could be accessed via a staircase directly from the yard. Tori hugged the daisies close to her. Suddenly, she noticed a tiny card inside. "To my little mouse, V," Victoria read gently, kissing the card and tucking it into the pocket of her shorts. There was no doubt that her father was alive, but for some reason, he couldn't come to them with her mother. "I won't tell anyone for now," Tori decided, carefully placing the bouquet of daisies in a small round vase where she kept various girly knickknacks and emptying the contents into a box with old magazines. Tori then brought a bottle of water and poured it into the vase so that the flowers would feel good and delight her with their beauty and tenderness for a long time. Candace was overjoyed to see Tori smiling again, and she even started making up her own fairy tales, as her father used to do. Candace was surprised by her daughter's changes in mood, thinking it was just a natural part of growing up. This happened a week after Tori found the bouquet of daisies tied to the swings. As usual, Victoria left home early in the morning. Mom had already gone to work, and Arnold was still asleep because he had returned very late from work the day before. Tori glanced at the porch step. There was a box there. She grabbed it and opened it. Inside was a piece of paper folded several times. Unfolding it, the girl saw something like a map. They used to draw such maps with her dad to plan their walks. Uncle Arnold's house, trees, path, fence, and a little cafe marked with a tick. Tori recognized this cafe. Not far from here, they sold delicious pastries there. The girl turned around and listened. Silence. Then, the girl ran her hand through her slightly tousled hair and set off on the specified route. Her heart beat vigorously as if it wanted to jump out of her chest. The roof of that cafe had already come into view. Victoria's heart pounded even harder. A man stood near the carved door. Tori couldn't see his face. He wore a black cap and dark glasses. Tori started to feel a little scared. What if he was some shady guy pretending to be her dad to do something terrible? But the girl couldn't bring herself to stop and slowly approached the person standing by the cafe. "My little mouse," he whispered as Tori approached. "My Tori." No, it couldn't be a stranger. It was her father, Daddy. She wept and raced to him. "Show, my little one, let's go. I've already ordered cakes and your favorite green tea. Why didn't you attend? Why did you leave us with Mom? Who did we bury?" Tori persisted. "My little bird, I'll explain everything later. Let's sit here for now, and you tell me everything, okay?" Tori nodded in agreement. The cafe had just opened. It was empty and silent. Who would come here so early on a Sunday morning? The father and daughter sat and talked softly. "Why are you living with Uncle Arnold?" Sarah asked. "I told you Senor Bust sold the house, so we had nowhere to go, and Uncle Arnold offered us to stay with him. And Mom, she married him," Tori said. "No, what are you thinking? Mom adores Uncle Arnold as a friend," she informed me. "It indicates she's willing to assist him if he needs it, but she's not ready to marry him as she was with you," Tori explained. "Really?" Sarah inquired, hoping. "Of course, it is true. But you'll come back to us, right? Or are there terrible individuals chasing you, attempting to kill you? Did you do something horrible and are now hiding from them?" Tori glanced at her father with wide eyes, full of real youthful curiosity and perhaps fear. "No, dear, your father did nothing wrong. Someone else did. But it's difficult for me to explain everything to you right now, little mouse," her father said. "Why did you phone me instead of coming to Uncle Arnold's house? He is your best friend. He regularly talks about you, and I saw tears in his eyes. He didn't want us or Mom to notice, so he turned away. But I noticed. He's pretty good. Mom believes you're fortunate to have a friend like him." "Lucky, Tori," she insisted. "I was just worried," her father said. "I was afraid that your mother didn't love me anymore, that she loved Arnold. I did not wish to interfere. Forgive me, tiny mouse, foolish. let's get to Uncle Arnold's quickly. Or would you like to go to Mom's work? Smile Bakery is nearby, honey, and I've seen it. But I can't do that right now. I need to go out for business today, you know? I will come back tonight. Don't tell Arnold or Mom for now, okay? Now let's go. It's time you go home. Tori, who had been waiting for her father all day, remained silent despite her eagerness to inform Uncle Arnold and her mother, who had returned from work around 8 p.m. You seem kind of strange today, Candace said, glancing at her daughter, who couldn't sit still for a minute. Dad still hadn't arrived. Could he have lied? No, he couldn't have done that. Anyone but her father. But it was time to go to bed, as she had to go to school tomorrow. Tori lay in bed sleepless. She was so happy that today they would finally be a family again. She could see her mom's eyes filling with happiness, and Uncle Arnold began to hug Dad and laugh low. He'll soon have a new daughter, whom he'll call Little Mouse, and tell her the craziest stories. Liar, he did not leave us. Tori cried, he'll definitely come back, and then a wicked girl approached her and pushed her hard, causing her to fall onto her back. She sobbed and awoke. What's wrong, sweetheart? Inquired the concerned mother. That was an awful dream. He did not abandon us. You will see. Dad will definitely return. I know, Tori wailed, clutching her mother. Calm down, my girl. Everything's fine. Mommy is with you. Now attempt to fall back asleep. Tori didn't go to school the next day because she had a fever. The doctor said the girl wasn't sick. It appeared to be the result of some stress or exhaustion. He advised her mother to keep her at home for a few days and try to cheer her up and give her more attention. Candace stayed with Tori. Fortunately, her colleague agreed to cover for her. Candace was worried that something bad would happen to her daughter, but she had no idea how to keep her entertained. Tori sat in bed, hugging the soft kitty her father had given her shortly before the tragic events, and staring silently at the ceiling. She didn't want her mother to read to her, nor did she want cartoons or her favorite lemon candies. Hi, could you please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel? Thanks. It was already around 9 p.m. Arnold had just home from work and was eating dinner in the kitchen. Candace was ironing clothing in the living room. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I'll get it, said Arnold's wife. Candace greeted, hello, to the man standing at the threshold as she opened the door. She looked at him and their eyes connected. They were his eyes and Sarah's eyes. They were filled with love and tenderness, and light literally radiated from them. This radiance envelops, hypnotizes, and creates a sense of genuine delight. Sarah, Candace clutched the door frame to avoid from collapsing. But then who was the person we buried? Why all this farce, my violet forest? Please don't worry like this, I beg you. I'll explain everything now. Listen to me. Is Arnold at home? Yes, he's in the kitchen. Candace stood back to let her husband, who had died just over 6 months earlier, to enter the house. He walked in, dropped the sports bag and parcel he was carrying, and hugged his wife. They felt as if the entire world had been abandoned. All that remained was them and their love, which had become even stronger as a result of this awful separation. Candace, who's there? Arnold said from the kitchen. Let's go, the woman said. We have a lot to discuss. As far as I understand, Arnold also has the right to know everything. Arnold dropped his fork on the table and coughed, nearly choking on the rice, as Sarah entered the kitchen. Then he sprang up from his seat and softly hugged his pal. They stayed awake beyond midnight. At first, they couldn't believe Sarah was still alive. But then he informed his wife and a friend what had actually transpired. Sarah has a twin brother. He was an exact replica of him on the outside, but on the inside, they were as dissimilar as ice and fire. Martin had a mischievous streak since boyhood, whilst Sarah was quite the reverse. All family were astounded by the brothers' contrasting personalities. Sarah understood at a young age that he would have a family. He began working part-time while still in school to support his parents. The family's standard of living was consistently poor. Martin, on the other hand, simply blamed his parents for not being able to provide for their children. He didn't want to work and preferred another way to make money: fraud. That is what got him captured and landed him in prison. He was condemned to 10 years in a severe regime labor colony, but he served 12. They allowed more time for an escape attempt. Sarah never told anyone about his brother, including Candace. He did not, however, leave him. He sent packages on a regular basis, paid Martin visits, and provided him with as much support as he could. However, Martin did not require his brother's assistance. On the contrary, he blamed him for sending him to prison for several years while Sarah achieved success outside. Their parents did not live to see their son's release. They died within 4 years of one another. Sarah claimed at home on the day Martin was freed from detention that he had a regular workday like his pal, carrying products to retailers. In truth, he traveled to the neighboring town where the colony was located. He planned to accompany his brother to their parents' house in the little village before returning home. "Sarah, what am I supposed to do in this hole? Could you take me with you? I'll find a job. I won't be a burden. I'll even get to know your daughter and your wife," Martin said as they drove away from the colony. "Martin, it's not possible for now. We live in a tiny house. There's no room for you." "It's cramped as it is," Sarah said him. "Of course you never cared about me anyway," the brother murmured. "Let's not go there. You chose the criminal route yourself, and I constantly warned you that it wouldn't end well, but you just ignored me. You even insulted me for being a goody two-shoes who listens to mom and dad and reads boring books instead of going out with some wonderful lady, isn't that right?" "What can I say, brother?" "I was young and foolish," Martin replied, clicking his tongue. "But things will be different now. I need to get out of this village. There's nothing for me here. I'll end up going downhill again. Martin, listen, we need to take things slow. I promise I'll figure something out. Just give me some time. I'll help you with money. I'll visit as much as I can." "Why are you always so righteous, huh?" "Things is saying," moaned Martin. Sarah remained silent. He didn't want to argue. He just wanted to live his life. He didn't want to abandon his brother, but he also didn't want to disrupt his own life. He had recently started this job. There was more money in the family now, and they were considering buying a house on credit. Of course, Arnold suggested starting their own business and opening an online store. It was still just an idea, but everything starts with them. Then there was Mar. "Okay, Sarah, I understand. So I'll have to stay in this small village. I told you I'd figure something out," his brother said as he stomped on the brakes, causing the car to jerk. "What are you doing? Are you tired of living or something?" Martin yelled. "Sorry, bro, daisies," Sarah remarked, exiting the car. "Are you out of your mind? What about daisies? Look for daisies in the clearing, I've told you 100 times. Tori is my daughter. My wife's name is Candace," Martin stated disdainfully. "Whatever. No woman is worth slamming on the brakes and jeopardizing your life. And for what? To pick daisies?" "Disgusting," Sarah said. "Wait for me here, I'll be quick." There were only a few daisies, as if a forest gnome had once strewn a few seeds on the ground, which blossomed into delicate yellow-eyed blooms. Sarah crouched down and gently began to select branch by branch, and he didn't even hear footsteps behind him, even though Martin was very close. Then came a severe hit to the head, followed by darkness. Sarah awoke in a strange area, with his head bandaged, thirsty, and his entire body hurting. He felt so weak that he couldn't move his hands or feet. "Granny, he's awake," a voice muttered, possibly male or female. Sarah lacked the strength to open his eyes, so he could only assume. "Sister Candace, so he'll live," the granny whispered quietly, resting her dry hand on Sarah's neck. "Pulse is normal, the danger has passed. Where am I?" Sarah managed to utter it with difficulty. "In the forest, in our little house with my granddaughter. We live here as hermits, and you were severely beaten and abandoned in the forest. A little more and you'd have surrendered your soul to God," the elderly woman added. The man said, "I don't remember anything," and then fell asleep. Sarah never found out what made two women, one elderly and the other very young, live in this forest wilderness. Without them, he wouldn't have survived. His brother struck him on the head with a stone, and there was miraculously no brain hemorrhage. But Sarah forgot everything. He couldn't even tell who he was or where he lived. "What were you up to?" Doña Leah inquired one day. "What?" Sarah did not comprehend. "Your passport was nearby, bearing the name Martin Diaz. It's you in the picture." "So are you Martin Diaz?" Doña inquired. The tired guy repeated, "Martin?" I don't remember, like a blank slate, as if I were born yesterday, she remarked. And why are you asking what I was in for? Because it says in the passport, that's why, the old woman giggled. So I'm also a criminal, aren't you pretending, lad? The older woman inquired with a wicked wink. I swear to you that I don't recall anything. But I don't feel like a criminal, he said, smirking. Sarah couldn't get out of bed for 2 months. His head spun and he suffered from intense weakness. Then, gradually, he began to recover, but unfortunately his memory refused to return. Sarah had a small stash of money. Most likely he intended to give it to his brother and put it separately in the breast pocket of his shirt. Lily, the second inhabitant of this forest cottage, bought the necessary groceries every 2 weeks at the store, which was, "You know, Martin, you are completely healthy now. It's time for you to resume your normal life, assuming you don't intend to stay here indefinitely," Doña Leia said one evening. Yes, Doña Leia. I had been thinking about it myself. I'll go to the police. They'll undoubtedly help me establish my identity, Sarah remarked. The cops had to put in almost no effort to solve Sarah's case. Why have you come? Senor Das inquired of the burly policeman inspecting the passport. To demonstrate your good behavior? I need your help. Please help me figure out who I am and if I have any relatives, Sarah exclaimed in one breath. Did you leave your brain in jail or what? Senor Das inquired. I'm not sure, but if it weren't for one lovely old lady, I wouldn't be here today. She found me in the bush not far from the highway. She treated my wounds, but my memory has yet to return. I am living in a fog. Were you enrolled at a certain address? No, I wasn't. I came right to you. Understood. We will investigate your case and notify you of the outcomes. Please leave your phone number. Sarah Diaz, Martin Diaz's twin brother, had been buried instead of Martin Diaz, the man presenting the passport under the name of Martin Diaz. Fortunately, Sarah had purchased a cheap phone before going to the police. Otherwise, he would have to return to his forest captivity and would be unable to afford even the most remote room. It took several weeks for the police to determine that the man presenting the passport under the name of Martin Diaz was not Martin Diaz. Congratulations, Sarah Diaz. There is no doubt about that. Are you okay? Asked the on-duty officer. Yes, everything's fine, Sarah said, massaging his brow as if trying to recall anything. He remembered the face of a happy girl. Who was she? The daughter inquired, her curiosity displaying no indications of illness. Of course, sweetheart. Sarah widened his eyes and lowered his voice. Dad, I'm no longer a child. Tori pouted, saying, I don't believe your stories. Oh, what a shame. It was a lot of fun before. So you're not going to believe what occurred to me recently, Sarah said. Even a fairy tale could not make it up. What has happened to you? The girl inquired with interest. I met her in the swamp, Sarah explained quietly. Dad, you're joking again, the girl complained, upset. Enough chatting. Let us prepare for the wilderness, maidens, Arnold exclaimed loudly. Tori, darling, don't forget about the pineapple sauce, Candace exclaimed, leaping from her chair. Let me do it, Sarah said, heading up the stairs. Everything will be fine, Candace said. The next day, they decided to celebrate Sarah's return to the family and the world, and they began planning. You know what I believe, Candace remarked, emptying groceries from her bag. We should go there into the forest. Let's celebrate at the older woman's house with her grandchild. If it hadn't been for them, I would have been a widow for the rest of my life, Candace explained. Great idea, Arnold added. Why didn't I think of that before? Are there squirrels in that forest? Tori inquired with curiosity. Of course, sweetheart, there are even names there, Sarah said with wider eyes and a softer voice. Dad, I'm no longer little. Tori pouted, saying, I don't believe your stories. Oh, what a shame. It was so much fun before, Sarah remarked. You will not believe what occurred to me recently. Sarah said, even a fairy tale could not make it up. What has happened to you? The girl inquired with interest. I met her in the swamp, Sarah explained quietly. Dad, you're joking again, the girl complained, upset. Enough chatting. Let us prepare for the wilderness, maidens, Arnold exclaimed loudly. Tori, darling, don't forget about the pineapple sauce, Candace exclaimed, leaping from her chair. Let me do it, Sarah said, heading up the stairs. Everything will be fine, Candace said. The automobile and its joyful passengers entered a rather broad wooded road. Thank you for watching. How did you discover this story? Please let me know in the comments below. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more great tales like this. Your feedback and support is very valuable.